Well, I'm very excited to be with you guys this morning. I wasn't planning on it. I was planning on running in the Twin Cities Marathon. What? Is it that obvious? Well, I feel bad for all those that trained and spent maybe even over a year ready to run that race, and it's canceled. It's that shiny thing, right, that we put out in front of us. That shiny thing, sometimes those shiny things get canceled. But today we're talking about something that doesn't get canceled. The shiny thing, the kingdom of God, is always here, always present, is always near. So we start our time this morning reading from the Gospel of Matthew about this kingdom of heaven. And Jesus says in the Gospel of Matthew, the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field, which someone found and hid. And then in his joy, he goes out and sells all that he has, and he buys that field. Jesus says, again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant in search of pearls. On finding one pearl of great value, he went and sold all that he had and bought it. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. I think one of the hardest jobs that I see out in the world is when you're in sales and you're inside somebody else's business. You're inside somebody else's business and you're selling things that business isn't really necessarily concerned with selling. Here's what I mean. There's a store over here. Jason was like, okay, just say it. It's Costco. Okay, it's Costco. And I'm going into Costco and I'm going to look for a couple pork shoulders and a brisket to throw on the smoker. And someone's trying to sell me a phone plan. Or I go look for some cucumbers and let's say, 5 pounds of dates, walking around and someone's trying to sell me knives. Or I go in there, I'm looking for the biggest bag of chocolate candy I can find, and someone's trying to sell me cookware with a microphone. Now, everybody knows that they're there, and as you're walking down the aisle, you're like trying not to look at them because they're looking at you, and you're like, but I like people. I really like people. I like all of you. And I end up giving them eye contact. And once you give eye contact, you're sucked in. They've got you. They know. And then I have to lie to them. I have to lie and tell them that I have all of their stuff and it's wonderful, it's great, I've already bought it. I got to go. And they know that I'm lying to them. It's a hard job. There are a lot of shiny things in our world that are seeking our attention. Lots of shiny things that attract us. Lots of people are trying to sell us shiny things. I remember years ago, when my wife and I were in that big box store, there were so many shiny things. We just got our membership that we were walking around going, wow, that looks amazing. Boom, that looks amazing. Boom, that looks amazing. By the way, we only have 2 kids. That looks amazing. That looks amazing. And finally, our cart is filled. And yes, one of the items was 5 pounds of dates. I don't even know what to do with dates. But it was $4.99. It's amazing. My wife made me put it back. But sometimes you stumble upon a shiny thing that changes your life. Like a treasure hidden in the field. You weren't even really looking for it, but it's there. And when you find it, you know it for the treasure that it is. And for me, around 12 years ago, that shiny thing, that treasure, was a barbecue smoker. I was very excited about it. Now, before you judge me for being too shallow or too smoky, the shiny thing I'm talking about isn't the barbecue smoker itself. It isn't the physical item. It's what that barbecue smoker has done over the years. The shiny thing of this story is how that barbecue smoker has been used all these years, and in using it has changed my life. The amount of food that has come out of that smoker and then another smoker and then another one after that, and I don't know where my wife is in here. Can I get another one? I think she left. About 80% of the food that's come out of that smoker has gone to volunteers. It's gone to people who have given of themselves for others. It's gone to organizations. 80% of that. Actually, today, after I leave here, I'm putting in a brisket and 2 pork shoulders that are going to be ready for Apple Valley Women's Soccer concession stand tomorrow evening. Tomorrow evening. They're going to sell that meat so they can buy uniforms, socks, and all the things that they need. That's the shiny thing. That's the shiny thing. It's not the physical object itself. It's what it does. That shiny thing even gave my wife the confidence about 7 years ago to call the principal of Valley Middle School and to offer to provide a free barbecue lunch for the entire staff and the teachers on their last day of school. Now, both of my kids attended Valley Middle School. They had wonderful experiences. Both of my kids engage with the education system a little bit differently, and both of them got the support and the care that they needed. It was amazing, and we wanted to say thank you. And so I thought, why don't we just send them a card? That works. But she was right. She was right. And so on a Friday afternoon, we packed up our stuff and we headed over to Valley Middle School, and we set up in the back, and we provided a meal for the teachers and the staff at Apple Valley Middle School. That is the kingdom of God. And once you lean into that shiny thing, once you lean into the kingdom of God, all of a sudden, other people connect to it as well. There's a guy here, a member here at Prince of Peace called Mike Zick, and when we started, I think about 10 or 12 years ago, a group called the Holy Smokers, when I left to go to Resurrection in Woodbury, he took it over. And he found out that I was doing this meal at Apple Valley Middle School, and guess what he did? He showed up to help, because the kingdom of God brings other people in. And all of a sudden, we had more and more and more people helping to provide food for these amazing people who care for my kids, who care for your kids. And I had already left here, and I was in Woodbury, and we had created another Holy Smokers group at Resurrection Lutheran Church of Woodbury called Holy Smokers East. We're going to spread all over the place. And Sean, the leader of that group, drove all the way down from Woodbury to help. His kids didn't go to Valley Middle. Mike's kids didn't go to Valley Middle. All these people that showed up to help kids didn't go to Valley Middle. But that's what the kingdom of God does. The kingdom of God expands, it grows, it connects, it shows up. The shiny thing, the treasure, the kingdom of God, that seemed to randomly show up in my life 12 years ago was worth using, was worth living into. The kingdom of God is like a treasure you stumble upon that brings people together to give thanks. The kingdom of God is like a treasure you didn't intend to find, but when you find it, you're all in. No one needs to sell it to you. You get it. Now, there are other times when you are actively seeking the kingdom of God, searching for the kingdom of God, seeking and searching for more meaning in your life. Sometimes we are very intentional, like the merchant that's buying a pearl. This merchant is intentional about trying to find that pearl. And when they find it, they know it, they see it. And I know many people that are like that. Lots of people that are intentionally seeking the kingdom of God. Prince of Peace is filled with people like that. I can remember some 20 years ago, Prince of Peace had a food shelf. And that's what it was. It was a shelf in a closet. A shelf in a closet with a couple of canned food items on it. And along came a guy named Eric Elton, who's our director of missions. And he gathered some other folks, ended up gathering a lot of other folks who were all actively seeking the kingdom of God. And Mission Outpost was born. I can remember day after day early on, Eric would get a phone call from somebody to say, you know what? I have a bed or a couch or a kitchen table. Do you know of anybody that has a need? Do you know of anybody that might need that? And either later on that day or the next day, Eric would get a phone call from someone in need that said, hey, I need a bed, or I need a couch, or I need a table. That happened over and over and over again. It was almost like the kingdom of God was banging the doors down here at Prince of Peace. Crazy stuff. But if you think about it, it's not crazy at all. Because when you're actively seeking the shiny things, when you're actively seeking that pearl, when you're actively seeking that treasure, when you're actively seeking the kingdom of God, you will almost be blinded by the light that is everywhere. Jesus uses another parable to explain this pervasive nature of the kingdom of God. He says in Matthew, the kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman took and mixed with 3 measures of flour until all the dough had risen. Now, I'm not a baker. I'm a smoker. Meat. But I know this much. Once you add yeast into flour and water, you cannot remove the yeast. You can never take it out again. You cannot go back in and take out that yeast. It's everywhere. What Jesus is saying is the kingdom of God is baked into the whole thing. It's baked into the whole thing. You since the beginning, you can't take it out. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Sometimes you stumble upon it because you're not looking for it, but sometimes you are looking for it, and you will see it all around you. And then Jesus says, this is what you do. This is what you do with the kingdom of God. You are the light of the world, Jesus says. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it under the bushel basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. Sometimes that city, sometimes that light shows up outside a middle school to serve lunch. And sometimes that light, sometimes that city gathers and commits itself to a long-term mission to feed, to clothe, and to provide dental care for those in need. The kingdom of God shines brightly. And as we continue our time here together, here at Prince of Peace, there's a couple things that I want you to know that are deep into my heart. The first is that the kingdom of God is big enough for you. The kingdom of God is big enough for you, big enough for your questions, big enough for your doubts, big enough for your past, big enough for your future. The kingdom of God is big enough for you, no matter where you've been, no matter where you've come. And guess what? The kingdom of God is big enough for everybody that's not here. I want to share with you a vision that I have. I want to share with you a vision that one day in this space we don't have a rope. We don't have a rope roping off a whole section. That one day in this space, the kingdom of God is big enough for all those who are not here, and that section's full. Not because these people moved over there, but there's others that need to know about the kingdom of God. Anybody else have that vision? Anybody else get excited about that? I asked that at 9 o'clock, and one person said, woo! And her name is Patty. She came up to me and introduced herself. And I said, Patty, you're on the team. God enough is big enough for you, but God is big enough for all those that aren't here either. Secondly, you are not just welcomed into the kingdom of God, you belong in the kingdom of God. The kingdom of God is for you. It's a place for you to belong. And sometimes, you'll stumble into it. And sometimes it'll break through so bright and shiny. You'll almost be blinded by its brilliance, but you belong. And the third thing is that Prince of Peace is ready to deploy you into the kingdom of God in ways that will change the world. Your time, your experience, your talents, your abilities, your financial generosity is of the utmost importance to the kingdom of God. If you want to change the world, if you want to truly live into the kingdom of God, you are home here. And this is what it looks like.